Joining me now is Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen, who serves on the Budget and Appropriations Committees. Senator, how can the Senate go home with no money for all of these people? The money is running out. You heard what Governor Beshear had to say. They're not going to have money to distribute a vaccine if a vaccine is available.
Well, Andrea, that's exactly right. I mean, the Senate should be working around the clock. This is an urgent, desperate situation, both in terms of providing more help to turn the tables on the virus, but also to deal with the economic pain that's been caused. As was just said, at the end of December, a lot of the important lifelines, safety nets that are keeping families afloat economically are going to expire. And it would be unconscionable for the United States Congress not to get an agreement to provide relief before that time.
There's a Century Foundation report saying that because of the talks going nowhere, 12 million jobless workers are on the brink of losing their benefits. So what can be done? And on top of that, there is a deadline coming up, I believe, December 11th, where the government funding runs out.
That's right. There are two important
for the whole budget, for everything.
Well, that's right. That's for the funding of the U.S. government, which, of course, impacts every American in one way or another. So we've got to come together and get an agreement on with that budget package, and we are making progress there. My view is that we should attach the emergency COVID-19 response bill to that so that we can all come together, one vote, keep the government open, but also provide this vital relief, which should include continuing the unemployment insurance program and enhanced benefits, providing help to small businesses, those who are most in need, state and local governments, food assistance. That should be part of this overall agreement. And we've got to get this done because millions of Americans are already hurting and tens of millions of more are going to be put in desperate straits if we don't do that.
Well, you're on budget and appropriations. Is anyone from the Republican side talking about that solution?
Well, unfortunately not. We saw that the talks broke off with the Trump administration. President Trump is more preoccupied spreading his falsehoods about the election that he is in helping the country. Senator Mitch McConnell said that he wanted to do something, but we've asked him to engage and come to the negotiating table. And so far, he's refused to do so. He seems content to let all these American, families and workers go over the cliff. I hope that will change. We're seeing the virus spiking, 250,000 Americans now dead. So it's way past time for Mitch McConnell to come to the negotiating table. The House passed the HEROES Act 6 months ago. We don't have to pass the HEROES Act if there's some other proposal that can bring us together, but we do need to get something done.
What do you think of what Mike Pompeo is doing in Israel today?
So, Andrea, here we have a Secretary of State who is undermining democracy here at home by feeding into President Trump's fraudulent narrative that he won the election. And that hurts us overseas in terms of our democratic values and principles. But in Israel, he's also undermining our interests in achieving a two-state solution. And what Mike Pompeo is doing is pulling the rug out of even the remote remaining possibility to do that, to have a democratic Jewish state of Israel living side by side with a Palestinian state, a homeland for the Palestinian people. And by going into the Palestinian territories to these settlements, what Pompeo is doing is making it much harder to achieve that and, making it harder for the incoming Biden administration. But I am confident that the new administration will get back on track as to what has been bipartisan U.S. policy before Trump came along.
Isn't it possible that some of the steps they're taking will be irreversible, like withdrawing the troops from Afghanistan?
Well, I think with respect to the troops in Afghanistan, my understanding is that while President Trump wanted to withdraw them all, we're talking about 2,000 remaining troops. So incoming President Biden will have to make a decision there. Obviously, there are very sensitive ongoing negotiations with the Taliban right now, and we don't want to give the Taliban a reason to, resume even more active hostilities. They are already violating the agreement, and we don't want to give them a green light to violate it more. With respect to the situation in Israel, I am confident that a Biden presidency will not pursue the policies that Trump has, which have essentially undermined any possibility of getting that two-state solution. I think we'll get back on track to trying to make sure that we can have that kind of settlement. But it's going to be long and it's going to be difficult. And it's made harder by what Mike Pompeo is doing, really for his own personal political reasons. As Ben Rhodes said, he had it exactly right. Mike Pompeo wants to run for president, and he's using the post of Secretary of State and taxpayer dollars to further his political interests at the expense of our foreign policy interests.
Senator Van Hollen, thank you very much. Thanks for being with us today.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.